welcome to Podcast Fandom, the official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina.
I'm Ellen.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are back to discuss The Staircase. Every week, I feel like I have to do this disclaimer. I feel so bad laughing and enjoying the show this much and feel like enjoying talking about it so much because a real person died.
Right. Mm-hmm.
However, this episode,
especially this week,
yeah,
so good.
I was just like, I can't. I told Sarah earlier, Ellen, it took me probably 2 hours to watch this episode because I kept pausing it. I was just like, I can't. My nerves, like, the worst thing is that now I watch most TV with Kaylee. I used to watch most of my TV alone. And when my secondhand embarrassment kicked in, I had ways to, like, deal with that. For instance, again, like, pausing. Like, I will pause a fucking show and go to the bathroom, go get something to drink.
Right.
But you can't do that when you watch TV with somebody else. But another thing I would do, tell me if you guys can relate to this. You know, anytime there's, like, two people in a room, and then one person leaves to, like, go get some water or something, and the person that stays behind starts snooping through their shit, I fast forward.
Right.
I have to see. I fast forward just until I see if they got busted.
Right.
If they don't get busted, I rewind and then I watch the scene because I can't. My anxiety. I can't watch the scene waiting to see if they're going to get busted. So this episode had a lot of stuff like that where I was just like, I can't. I don't want to know what's about to happen. I got to pause and take a break. Mm-hmm. That was my experience with the episode. What about you, Ellen?
It didn't take me that long, but I do have a similar thing where I'm like, even when I'm by myself, I'm uncomfortable watching.
Yes.
But I think there was something we talked about online, and it's jumping ahead, but like I really thought they were gonna like get it on in that laundry room. Big Ray and Michael.
Yes, Big Ray.
We found out his name is Big Ray.
We were saying Ray for weeks, and now it's Big Ray, and I was like, oh, Jesus.
He's graduated to a nickname.
They're gonna do it. No, but I mean, just overall, I liked the episode, but this was the first time I felt a little like voyeuristic. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
I think like with the, Toni Collette, like, I mean, she's an actress, she's a pro. I'm sure she got her paycheck, but like the amount of time she's had to like reenact dying, and then this one with the owl, I was just like, no, I don't know. It just felt the owl thing. I'm glad they delved into it because it's just been out there,
right?
But even when they first started talking about it, even Michael was kind of like, ugh. He looked like he thought it was ridiculous. And it was just this borderline feeling of, were they playing that reenactment for campiness? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I will say this.
A little like,
I will say this. When I told Sarah earlier today, when I was watching the episode and I liked the way they did it in that, and actually, like, there's another reason it took me. I paused the episode at this moment and, like, was explaining to Kaylee. Because she's in the room when I watch, but she's not, like, really paying attention. Unless I'm like, oh, look at this. This is really funny or something. So I was explaining to her, like, the owl theory and how every week we were saying, well, it looks like they're giving us reenactments of all the different theories. So hopefully we get the owl theory, right? And the way they did it with Sophie talking to Caitlin and being like, so I have a theory. And then it cuts to the pool. I was like, fuck yeah. I was like fist pumping. I was like, yeah, we're going to see it. But then when she walked into the house, I was like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
I was like, why did I want to see this?
It just made me feel a little icky.
I feel icky in terms of like her family who, as far as I know, they still believe, like her side of the family, her daughter, her ex, her siblings and stuff. Like they still believe that he did it.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, for us, we can be kind of rational about this because we're not attached to it and say, well, if they're doing a movie and they're going to show all the theories and this was a theory and this was featured in the documentary, if it's tastefully done, then whatever. But as a family member, you don't want to hear that shit. You're they probably don't want to, they're like, he did it. Why are we dealing with this? So,
Right.
Yeah.
But what about you, Sarah? How'd you feel about, I'm sorry, Ellen, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Overall thoughts. Okay. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I think this episode seemed most fictionalized, like most like a TV show, whereas the others seemed more documentary-esque, obviously with actors, but so this one seemed like the most there was like the family drama and the owl drama, and it was all kind of most like a TV show. But that said, it was also the most enjoyable one. Like, can I enjoy this? I don't know, but like,
yeah,
I had a good time watching it. So.
Me too. I know. That's like the thing where you're watching something true crime, but it's hard to kind of stay in that space when you're like, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger's son and that's Colin Firth. We know we're watching actors, we're commenting on how good the acting is, and you're enjoying it like you would, a TV show, because that's what it is. Like you guys, I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna spend too much time. Yeah, it was good. I have a lot of thoughts though. Again, because you guys, like you already pointed out, Sarah, this one felt like the most like a TV show. And I'm just curious. I'm always curious, like, did this really happen? Like the stuff with her and her sister at Thanksgiving,
Right.
Like that's the type of stuff that, depending on who's involved, I would trust that it really happened. Right. But because I know her family ain't involved with this, I'm like, where did that come from? Like, did Michael tell this to Jean when they were filming the documentary? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I thought that scene was, whether it happened, like that or not, I think it was kind of to show that before Kathleen died or was murdered, however you want to phrase it, the sister actually kind of liked Michael.
Yeah.
Like they had that little bonding moment.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, oh, she's always hated him, so she suspected him right away.
Right.
That type of...
That this is, that it took convincing for them to think that he... Yeah. For them to believe that he did that. Yeah. Okay, so, how we do, we're going to do it chronologically, and, let's go to, I'm going to go to how it begins, and this is in 2017, and it's how the episode begins, I should say. And I'm sorry, my notes are color coded. Okay, yeah, I do have red notes. Okay, so, really quickly though, it begins back in 2017 at the courthouse, and we get more information about what's happening, and it is Michael entering his Alford plea. And then later they go into more detail as to what that is, but you get the feeling, if you're not sure what it is, or again, if you're someone who is watching this without knowing the details of the case, hadn't seen the documentary, you understand that this is like a good thing for him, right? Like he's not going to the courthouse to go back to jail or something like that. Yeah. And Jean is there, and so is David.
Right.
That's his name, right? David Rudolph, the attorney.
The lawyer. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that sets up the episode. But let's go back prior to her death. And this is, most of the time is at Thanksgiving, 2001. So it's 17 days before she dies. And I was completely wrong. They absolutely did not spend Thanksgiving together.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, I was completely surprised that he didn't figure out a way to stay home and, put the pressure on her to prepare this. But yeah, they went to her sister's, where Kathleen apologizes to Caitlin about not making it to her parents' weekend at the school. And then Hold on. I'm looking at my notes. I think there's a better way to talk about this. Give me a second. Okay, I was really confused because what I have written here, and again, it's like with this show, you have to really be looking because they'll just put up on the screen like the time or the location, you know, and if you're not looking at that exact moment, you're like, what year is this? What is this? So I thought they were in Virginia. Like they were showing where everybody was at Thanksgiving. And for some reason, I thought Todd and Clay were in Virginia and they were having a conversation. But now clearly this is wrong because they were at the house in Durham.
Yeah.
The boys were the only ones who were quote unquote home for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Right. And before they throw a party, but before the friends come over, Todd advises Clay to lie to Becky. Apparently she had given him an ultimatum about his drinking. And Todd was like, if you're not ready to give it up completely, just tell her you are, but hide it.
Freaking Todd.
Like,
He's the worst.
He really is. I really want to know if they're watching this. Because I know Becky is like, excuse me? You did what?
You did what the day before you proposed to me?
Right? Like, you had to really think about it. You woke up where? Like, what? Martha. So now, this is what I have in my notes, because I completely forgot when we were with Martha, when we saw her with that black girl.
Yeah.
In the prior episode. So here in my notes, I have where everybody is at Thanksgiving, Martha meets a new black girl. But then the more I looked at her, I was like, she looked like the other black girl.
It's the same black girl.
It's the same black girl. So this is how they met, right?
Right.
At some sort of,
Poetry
I don't know, was it a poetry? Yeah.
Open mic.
Friends.
Yeah.
It was Friendsgiving, I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And was that Martha's date? Like, was she there with that guy?
It seemed like the guy was kind of like leaning on her and like looking for her reaction.
Yeah.
So it seemed to me like she went with that dude and then
left
did not leave with him.
Yes. Left with the better option.
She
After
upgraded
that
on the way out.
thing, I would have too. So,
Yes. Yeah, I like how they immediately made eye contact and were like laughing and yeah. Margaret is in Rhode Island with Aunt Jesus, who tells her some shit about Michael. So she, first of all, the husband was hilarious because Aunt Jesus, I don't really know her name. She was trying to spill the tea immediately. Like, before they carved the turkey, she wanted to serve the tea. And this man was like, can we just cut into this dry-ass turkey?
Unseasoned turkey.
Right? It's like, can
tell
we just...
if this man didn't want her to, like, you know, like, start something with Michael by spilling this information, or if he's just tired of hearing it from her.
I could not. You're exactly right. Like, I couldn't tell if he was like, this isn't the way to deal with this. Like, I feel you. He's dangerous. Or if it was just, here she goes again. Will you shut the fuck up about Michael Peters? You know, he was just like, I couldn't get tomorrow off. It's Black Friday. I gotta work. I gotta open the store. I just want to eat this fucking turkey and watch the game and go to bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, she just wanted to spill that tea, and eventually she does when she's showing her like these old photos, and Margaret learns that she spent more time living with, like, time with them than she knew. Like, she had spent weeks with them because exactly. Because she actually lived with them for a while.
Yeah.
And this is so weird. So she's claiming that after their mother died, their biological mother, and their biological father had died overseas. Like, he didn't even die in Germany, I think, right? Like, he was...
I don't think so. I think wasn't he in the military or something?
Yeah, they were stationed in Germany, but I think he was sent somewhere.
Yeah.
And he died wherever he was sent. And then, obviously, we know where the mother died. So, the aunt is saying that they originally got custody. Like, who had custody first? I couldn't tell if the aunt had custody first as next of kin, and then Michael and his wife petitioned for it.
I think she's the way she phrases it is that like he took them. So to me, it seemed like Aunt Jesus had them first.
Okay.
That's just how it came across to me.
And then there was something like she mentioned something with Patty, the ex-wife.
Oh, that's right, because Patty was overwhelmed with the boys.
Right.
Okay, so maybe they did have them, and then
so they went to live with
them.
her for like a month or summer or something, and then Michael wanted them back, and so he took them back, and then she says, but then when Martha started having problems, he called and he wanted them to take Martha and to keep Margaret.
Right.
This sounded so Michael-ish.
Yeah.
It's so fucking terrible.
Like that she's the default, caregiver for the girls after her sister dies.
Right.
And Michael insists on taking them, even though they're not related in any way, as far as we know. And Patty doesn't even want the girls because she's got 2 boys, but he doesn't care. So
and
he
those
just
boys
wants these girls.
And we see those boys are a mess.
They are a mess. And then whenever Patty finally gets so overwhelmed that, Michael has to step in, he tries to give the girls back for a little while. Then he takes them back. Then he wants to give one away.
Right.
Like, what?
You know what's interesting to me? And I haven't watched the documentary in years, so I don't remember what he has said about this. I'm sure it was covered, but I don't really get a feeling from the show, why they took those girls in.
Right.
I get that they were close while they were there, but neither of them were from Germany. It felt like kind of like a military spouse, kind of like we are friends by default, by proximity.
Right.
It just seems really weird to me that a couple can die while both living in a foreign country and have 2 children, and then their children don't go with blood relatives where they're from, that they would go with the couple that they met while they were both stationed there. And why would you want that? I don't know why I don't remember what his reason was for... did Patty want it and then he just agreed?
They've never said. Yeah.
That's what made me even think more that he was having an affair with Liz. Because it doesn't make sense per se, but it makes maybe a little more sense that he would take the daughters in if he was involved with the mother.
Didn't they say at some point there was a DNA test done on Martha?
They have done it. Yeah. I don't know if they've mentioned it in the show, but they have, and it's on the internet, And
okay. And I mean, Michael's not her biological father.
Right.
So,
but he might have believed she was.
This is true. Yeah. You're absolutely right. That's a very good point. And so she is, I'm going to put a pin in that for a second. So Margaret gets this bombshell dropped on her. Meanwhile, the brothers are having a party at the house, and it was the stereotypical, or I should say the trope of, it was just supposed to be a few friends, quote unquote. And then Martha goes to a rave with the black girl and has, quote unquote, the best night of her life.
Yes, she did.
As you deserve, girl. So the aftermath of the party, we get an explanation for the condom, which I'd forgotten about.
Yeah. It's a nice close-up of it.
Yeah.
When he wakes up with that thing in his hand, I howled. I was like, oh my God, what? And then he can't tell if it's used or not. And what is happening?
Now listen, I was so confused because I didn't know when we were when this scene started. and I was like, maybe I was like looking down to write notes, but when he hopped up like that, I thought this was present day. Like that he had cheated on his pregnant wife.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But when that girl was like, we didn't do anything because you couldn't get it up, I was like...
And ultimately, I think that's the deal with the condom that they found in the bedroom, is that there wasn't any, you know, there wasn't any semen in it. So they were like, why was there just like an open condom like on the floor behind the bed or whatever?
Yes. And I totally forgotten that little tidbit. So when it goes flying across the room, I was like that Leonardo DiCaprio gif where he's snapping his fingers pointing at the TV. I was like, oh yes, that's how we got there.
I just can't get over the scene opening on the condom.
Yes.
I know, right? It's like, remember me?
And I damn sure didn't. I really didn't. And so the aftermath of the party. Well, first there's the whole, everyone decides that they're going to tell the family something at Christmas, right? We have Margaret telling Martha, deciding not to tell Martha what Aunt Jesus told her because Martha had something to tell her and she was clearly happy about it, right? So she's like, I'll tell you at Christmas. Martha's like, I want to tell you and Caitlin, which I thought was so another sign of what I think they've been doing, which was showing how close those girls were.
Yeah.
And how, you know, tragic that this relationship is fractured because of this. But just the Martha saying, well, I will tell you and Caitlin at Christmas. Also at Christmas, we'll talk about the party punishment in a second, but Clay decides that he tells Caitlin and Todd he's going to propose to Becky, but he doesn't want to tell their parents until Christmas. And the sad thing is we just know that she's not going to make it to Christmas, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Which it took me a second because I was just like, does she make it to Christmas? And I remember, no, they had that sad fucking Christmas.
Right.
Remember? Yeah. Okay, so this could not have, like, okay. I will defer to the two white people on the podcast. But listen.
I knew what you were going to say.
I was like, look, because I've told Kaylee this. I grew up now I'm not saying it was like a lot of years, maybe not 10, 15 years, but there was a time in my life I just didn't even think white kids got spankings because TV told me y'all got sent to your room without dinner, you got your phone privileges taken away, you know what I'm saying? But I never shows y'all was getting your asses beat, and I got my ass beat, right? And I'm just saying, I don't hit my kids. I don't think you should. I don't think I should have got my ass beat. I don't think little white kids should be getting their little asses beat. I don't think any kids should be getting their little asses beat. However, these were some grown-ass motherfuckers. And these motherfuckers was throwing parties and fucking in your bedroom. If he could have gotten it up, Clay would have fucked that girl in your bed, in your marital bed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not even been awake when she got home.
So now... I'm sitting here like, if there was ever a reason that you might want to go upside somebody's fucking head, it's today, right? And here go Kathleen. Kathleen talk about, you know what? Everybody's coming home for Christmas. And and we're gonna have presents. I'm gonna buy you things. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna pay for all your fucking plane tickets home. I'm like, where's the punishment?
I know. I was like, what?
And then she was like, now clean this up. I'm going to go take a nap. I was like, being white must really be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I never had a party like that when my mother was out, but I did get my ass beat a couple times. Spanked.
That's why you never had a party like that, because you got your ass beat a couple of times.
Yeah, my mother was like, it wasn't like a frequent thing on my mother. Like,
right.
But yeah, we did. Each of us.
On occasion, she had been known to lay hands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On Ellen's ass.
You know, similar. I mean, I was raised in evangelical household, so I did get my ass beat all the time for no reason, and Also, my mom is a narcissist. So, I mean,
yeah.
if I even look weird
Yeah.
at any moment during a holiday meal, like, the lead up to a holiday is like stress for like a month of arguing for no reason. And then afterward, it's like, and this is at exactly 2:00 o'clock, you sniffed, and I am offended by that. So, like, and that will come back for like 10 years. So, yeah, I would never have done this.
Yeah. Like, it's just, you're like, no way would it have ever been worth it. Like,
no.
something of this magnitude.
Right.
And then when she was like when she left the room and Michael, I can't remember what Michael said. I feel like he said something smart. And then he left the room.
Oh, yeah. He was like, yeah, clean it up.
Yeah, like, get to work. Yeah. And then Todd was like...
consequences in that house.
And Todd was like, well, that could have been worse. And I was like, it should have been worse. That's why you never learn.
It wasn't even bad.
Yeah.
No.
And then the fact that Clay then says, you know what I'm going to do? Propose. I was like,
why?
How is that even relevant? Like, you woke up with another girl.
This is, honestly, this is the, like, this part of it, like, stuff like this, I should say, because there's some other things, but stuff like this is what makes it feel the most TV.
Yeah.
For her to just, because clearly, again, we're supposed to know in this moment she's not going to make it to Christmas. Yeah. And that she wanted to, if this is to be believed, right, that they are, at the very least, whether it's happened or not, the show wants us to feel that, right? They want us to feel that kind of like regret that this is, how important this Christmas was to her and she didn't get to have it, It's very manipulative.
Yeah, because she just thought, because the fact that they weren't together on Thanksgiving is kind of what she was like attributing to like the disaster.
The disaster of it all, yeah.
Which I guess if you're married to somebody like that, you have to be prepared to blame it on something that doesn't have to do with him. Like you have to be able to deflect.
Yeah.
And in a way that is kind of passive aggressive in that she blamed the fact that nobody was home, which ultimately was Michael's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Remember when they were back at the sister's place, and let's talk about that because I really didn't have a lot on that, but I just remembered something. Two things. One, when he's talking to Caitlin, and when she's in there fussing with her sister and he's on the couch and he says, he'll make sure that they come home for Christmas. The girls, right? And Caitlin goes, you gonna pay for it? Or something like that. And he goes, I'm not a sadist or something like that. So that's basically him saying, I will pay for them to come home for Christmas.
Because he doesn't want to get in trouble with Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Meanwhile, the fight with Kathleen and her sister, that was so, like, it was so weird, but it was also, like, I get it. And it's one of those things where, like, I felt bad for her sister because I feel like it's just do what I asked you to do. Or don't, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And then to be made to feel like you are overreacting. And maybe she was, but at the same time, why are you fucking with her? Like, it's her house. It's Thanksgiving. She hosted. She asked you not to do it. It's not like she was asking you to wash them. Like, just fucking relax. Like, and then, like, if it was a mistake, like, if you're just, like, loading the dishwasher and you did it, and then, but, like, to be antagonistic about it and be like, I know you told me not to, but I did it anyway. Like, look, as far as I'm concerned, her sister should have decked her because I was just like,
yeah.
It was interesting, but it felt real. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you ever fought with, like, anybody in your family, like, this just feels like how family fights. You always thought you were better than me. And I was like, oh my God. And, like, was Kathleen, like, really going to her purse? Like, I felt like I was like, bitch, if you pull out a checkbook, remember when she was like, I'll just buy you new dishes or some shit. Jesus.
That was so fucked up. China.
Yeah. She's because I have a real job.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely felt like true to family snippiness.
But yeah, the scene with Michael, though, like you mentioned earlier, Ellen, when they were eating the pie, and she's like, did she bake this? And he was like, yeah. She goes, that bitch can bake a good pie.
Martha got some Thanksgiving pie, too.
She really did. She really did.
I said it. I really did.
Okay, so now let's go to the spring of 2006. And this is, I like how they were like 11 years ago. And I was like, I can do math. Thank you. From 2017, where I just was. I understand that that's going back 11 years. So anyway, so now we get this montage of Sophie clearly separated from her husband at this point, right? Because I think we have a scene where like he's dropping the kid off.
Yeah.
So she has been, after her visit with Michael, going back and forth visiting with him and still working on films, right? So we see her working, we see her traveling to the States and back. We see her looking at townhouses and like showing her kid, like to get her kid's approval. And I'm like, sis, you are not moving your son to America for this motherfucker. First of all, we shoot kids in school in America. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, what are you doing? Like, honestly, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. I'm like, back then, this was happening. I will never forget the week that I brought Kaylee home from the hospital. It was Columbine happened.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. I was being super judgmental. I was like, please tell me she did not uproot, like leave her husband and take her kid and move to America of all places with a child to
all
be
I could
close
think
to a
was,
convicted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I could think was imagine leaving Paris for this, for a man in prison.
To go to the American South.
In a little townhouse and a sad puzzle.
Right.
No.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll get that. So we get that little montage, right? And she eventually does move to North Carolina for a while, apparently. Then so this was the spring of 2006. Then we're in the fall of 2006, and she finally meets with Larry, because apparently she'd been dipping his calls for months.
She wasn't desperate enough, yeah.
You know what I like, though, about this? When she goes out there and she meets him, and the way he starts, because you get the feeling like he doesn't get to talk to a lot of people about this stuff.
Right.
So he just likes talking about the stuff that he knows a lot about and that he likes, you know, but he's not really getting to the point. And she's like, Larry, I don't know why I'm here. So then when he finally says it, I forget like the first thing he says. I think he might just says, I think an owl might be responsible for that. Right. I like that he says to her, you don't think I know this is crazy?
Do you though, Larry?
But you know what though, Sarah? The way he explained it, he's convincing. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I could understand why somebody could be like, I know this is fucking crazy, but hear me out. I know this is fucking crazy, but look at these talents. Don't they line up with the, you know? But I like that they didn't make this, like, I forgot how much, not weight, but I forgot how seriously this was taken for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Michael loses we're still in the fall of 2006. He loses his second appeal. And David, he's like, what's next? And David's like, there is no next. That's it. At this point, I think because an appeal is just appealing the verdict. The only other option he would have is a retrial, but you have to have a reason. Right. And I think before they were trying to show, like, I think this is the scene, right, where he was saying something like, well, you know, the times have changed a little bit since he was convicted, meaning like maybe people aren't as homophobic. And I was like,
right. And they talked about like the public opinion,
right,
but that didn't sway the
right. So he would need like some sort of compelling, like something to do with like evidence, some reason to get a retrial. Other than that, he doesn't really he doesn't have any other options, and he behaves like, I mean, on the one hand, Jesus, don't be such a dick. Like, this man spent all these years, I mean, sure, you paid him a hell of a lot of money, but like trying to, you know, keep you out of prison. And I mean, you know, but on the other hand, it's like you just found out you're never getting out of prison ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was very petulant. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word. I felt bad saying that, but
was that when he is that when he told him he was getting married to the reporter? And he's like,
yes.
Fucking
I need to go look her up because I feel like I knew this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't be petty even in that particular way, you know?
Yeah, when he was like, enjoy your family.
Exactly.
You know,
I've
been
family.
petty over a lot less, so I'm not going to say anything. I wasn't ever facing life in prison. Yeah.
So I was like, I feel that.
Here's what I have in my notes. David getting married. Mike is mad and jealous. Enjoy your family. And I actually put quotes around. He was so... You know, I tweeted this, and I know you saw it, Sarah. Like, Colin Firth is so good as Michael Peterson that I don't know that you can even appreciate. Like, I think, obviously, like, if you knew nothing about this case, if you've never seen Michael Peterson before and you're just watching this, you might think, wow, Colin Firth is such a good actor. Like, this guy's such a dick. Like, you know?
Right.
But if you've seen the documentary, you can really appreciate how good he is in this role because, like, there's tons of, like, just the way he, like, sits, like, his mouth sits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
When he's not talking, he's just sitting there listening. Or I think it was the scene like when he walked into the courtroom. I'm like, he just looks like Michael Peterson. It's just like that type of his gait. And again, the way he like his mouth sits when he's just being, that he just looks so much like him.
Yeah. It's true. You're right. Like, he is so much like him. It's hard to appreciate that he's acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, like with Toni Collette, we don't really see a lot of Kathleen in the documentary besides like a few home video clips and stuff. But with her, we don't, or at least I feel like I couldn't tell you if she's a good Kathleen or not. But I tell you what, the wardrobe and the hair, like it just, I don't know about you guys, but like that's a time, and I don't know, maybe it is because there's like a lot of things going on in my life at the time, but obviously, you know, there was 9/11 and Kaylee was a baby and me and Donnie were getting married and then we moved like right around that time. So it was a lot, like that is a time in a period of time that I remember a lot about in terms of like the way people dressed and what was popular at the time, you know, and I just feel like they've captured a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like that shirt he was wearing when they went out to dinner in the last episode. I was like, how did people not know that man was gay, bisexual? Come on. All the boys was wearing shirts like that in the late 90s. So Margaret is looking real Sansa-like.
Yes.
Did you see the scene when because I think we get the scene where all of them finding out that he lost his second appeal. And I guess she was working in film or TV or something. Look like she was on a set.
Yeah.
Production. But the way she was walking in her hair, I was like, who? I was like, that's Sansa. That's
Right.
That's not Margaret. Martha has a mullet.
Yeah.
In San Francisco.
She does.
They're trying to make her just so stereotypical.
All right.
It does feel like that, yeah.
Right? Like I feel like as the story progresses, like now she has like a lip piercing.
Right. Like in case you missed it.
She's gay.
Like we didn't miss it. She said right in the first episode.
Right, I'm gay. Todd is still drinking in Mexico, apparently. And Clay has a baby in Maryland.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they go visit Michael after learning that he lost his second appeal, and it's Sophie. This was interesting, the way Sophie seemed to be so, I don't know if I want to use the word close, but like definitely familiar and friendly with his children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised that, I mean, because it seemed like they never really even met. We didn't ever see them meet.
Right.
So the fact that they had a relationship outside with her, you know, at least two of them did, was surprising.
Yeah. But it's Sophie, Clay, Margaret, and Margaret's husband, who I didn't catch his name. I think it started with an L.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lucas, maybe?
I think you're right.
Mailbox guy.
The
The mailbox guy.
What do you mean?
From last episode, when she was getting mail, she bumped into him at the mailbox.
Oh, I forgot that. That's right.
I did forget that. I forgot that too.
Oh.
I was thinking of Larry at the mailbox when Michael got his
Michael, yes, me too.
I don't think that's him.
I was like, huh?
I wasn't high or anything. What did I miss?
Okay, that's cool. All right. So so they're married now, and they visit Michael, and he's grumpy.
He is.
And
he certainly makes everybody pay for his feelings.
He really does. That's such a good way to put it. Yes. And okay, so when they're sitting there talking, he looks over, and Big Ray is there with his family visit. It looks like his wife and daughter, right?
Yeah.
And they're playing cards, and it just looks like a nice little visit. And I couldn't tell what Michael was thinking, because at this point, I still don't know if they fucking or not.
Right. We still don't know.
Right?
I know, right?
So I'm like, is he jealous? Like, is he jealous because, like, his little prison boo thing is happy with his family? Or is he just jealous because they're there? Like, I think, and this just came to me, this makes sense to me, that it would be this. Knowing that he was just having, like, when he was like, I can't live like this, was it just him watching somebody who seems to have just adjusted?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could definitely be that.
Okay. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Unless we find out they're fucking, but
unless
jury's still out.
Yeah, right. And then she tells them about Larry. I was surprised Margaret, she being Sophie, I was surprised Margaret remembered, like, who he. She was like, so I met with Larry Fowler. She was like, our next door neighbor. Like, I was like, and then I couldn't tell where this was going, like Michael's facial expression. Like, was this the first he was hearing about the owl theory?
It seems like that to me, and like, I thought he just had no patience for anything. He was, he was just in his
he was
shitty.
He was in his feelings. Yes.
He seemed like he thought it was a weird theory too.
Yeah. He kind of like scoffed. Yeah. And then that's when he was like, this has got to end. And if he had been a different type of man, like if I was his daughter, I'd have been afraid. I would have probably asked the warden or talked to him, like, to put him on suicide. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would have been concerned.
Yeah.
But as a viewer, like, I'd be like, oh, that's for us. He ain't gonna kill himself. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that felt like I don't know how serious I would have taken that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Considering who he is and how he behaves.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think most people would think, oh my God, he's suicidal, but, maybe not Michael.
Right.
But then, like, I don't know. Well, wait, because I'm skipping ahead. So that ends that scene, right? And then we cut to Sophie in her. Listen, Sophie comes home. She her fucking lean cuisine in the microwave.
Coca-Cola.
Living the life.
Because they lost that second appeal, they had mentioned that the defense like all the files, everything, like they are going to turn it over, right? Mm-hmm. And apparently it falls to her now, right? Because it's not like they have the house anymore. Like his kids clearly don't want it. So she's sitting in her little townhouse eating her lean cuisine, and there's just boxes of the case files in her apartment.
Yes.
And I was like, girl, look at your life. Look at your choices.
Please just like change your number and go back to Paris.
Honey. Mm-hmm. These are your, aren't these like our golden year? I don't know. Girl, the way I would not be
no
sitting around waiting for Michael Peterson's ass to get out of prison in fucking Durham, North Carolina, eating a lean cuisine.
Nothing but the boxes of evidence to keep you company. No thanks.
No.
From chocolat to lean cuisine. Or Juliet.
But again, I guess this is to show how like she must really, right? Like I don't, either she's just, again, one of those women who just like incarcerated men, which do you, boo. Right. But, or, you know, I guess you could take this as she saw something, like she really believed in his innocence. Because you do not do this for somebody, right, that you think did that and is what, remorseful? Like, you don't do that. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So then she visits him, Larry, at his house, and he explains everything. And by the end of it, she buys it. Because she calls Jean and gets files sent to her. Right?
Right.
Yep.
And then she gets a film crew. And next thing you know, she's filming Larry and his theory with the reenactment of, like, you know, what he thinks happened with this owl. Which is, okay, so this is something I didn't know. I didn't remember there was blood outside, like the front door and all that.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't remember, like, what the defense, like, what their reasoning was for that evidence. I don't remember what I just forgot that was a thing. Like,
I think they decided to just leave it because they didn't, you know, they couldn't explain it, so they were just like, well, it's just a couple of drops, so, like, why bring it up? You know?
That's so bizarre to me that, like, you're trying to decide whether or not a human being killed another human being, and whether or not then this human being should then spend the rest of their life in prison, and because you can't explain like, it's your job to explain, to figure this shit out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
can I just make a confession too?
What?
This whole, every time, like, before this, like, when I thought of the owl theory, like, I thought the owl was, like, inside the house and, like, attacked her from. Like,
I thought the owl attacked her at the back door, which is why I was just like, but why wouldn't Michael have seen or heard that?
Right.
So you just thought an owl made its way in the house?
Well, no, I mean, like, that's why, like, I never really even considered the owl theory, because I would think in my head, like, what, did the owl come down the stairs and
yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe think of it from, like, out, that the owl was outside, that it started outside.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh. Okay.
And that's I was thinking the owls, when they, like I said, from the first episode, when they kept focusing on the sounds that she was hearing in the attic or the walls. So I was like, my thinking was, this must be how they introduced the owls. Like, maybe there was some work being done or something like that. So, okay. So then Michael's in prison with the death wish. So this is another time I paused it, because Ray has one of the guards get Michael and bring him to, like, this cleaning closet, right? And then he closes the door, and Michael is like, what? Oh, and before that, I think I skipped this part where Michael picked a fight with the guy who had beat him up when he first got there.
Right.
And Ray was trying to like talk to him in the cafeteria when that happened. So when he comes in the room and Ray is like, and you know, Michael's like, what's this? He goes, no, calm down. We need to talk. I paused it for like 20 minutes because as I said on Twitter and on Facebook, every time we cut to the prison, I feel like I'm going to see Colin Firth rimming some black eye, and I'm not ready for that. So I paused it because I was like, "Hold fuck, here it is. Right. We're getting it.
It's happening.
Right, it's happening. We're getting the owl and the fucking in the same episode, and I was not prepared. So I paused it. But then I paused it. Where I paused it, though, I paused it right after Ray said, he said, oh, man, he said, you got to get it together or something like that, right? You're falling apart or some shit. And that's where I paused it. So I was like, either they're fucking or they made this motherfucker a magical Negro. And I'm not here for that either. I was like, is this supposed to be his conscience, his, you know, like his little guiding force in prison? You gave him this little wise black man. I don't like it.
Right.
But basically,
there really
Ray
was no Ray.
Right?
No.
But basically, Ray's like, if you want to die, I can make it happen. And I was like, what?
Right. Something really easy. What is easy? What's
and
easy
pain?
about dying?
Like,
But like, I mean, on the one hand, like, okay, on the one hand, it was like, fuck you. Like, what? Like, how do you even say this to somebody? Like, what are we doing? Like, I know it's prison, but damn. But then on the other hand, the fact that it's so black and white, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the fact that this is life. Like, if you decide you don't want to accept the state's judgment and spend the rest of your life in prison, I guess you have the right to take your own life. But the fact that it's being discussed in this way, that it's like, I mean, you know, some guys can't hack it. Like, if you can't figure out how to live in here, then sure, I'll help you die. Like, the ease in which they had that conversation just fucked me up.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine from his point of view, you know, from Big Ray's point of view, it would be so much worse to watch, you know, Michael gradually deteriorate and pick fights and get beat up and, you know, whatever, than it would be to help him commit suicide.
But then, I thought they were going to kiss. I didn't know where we was going.
I know.
That embrace was very, I mean, it was not like, I don't know. It was like a nice embrace and all that, but like, at the same time, I was like, what are they saying about this relationship? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Because, like, the way, when they were really close, like, before the embrace, like, the scene played like the first time people kiss.
Yeah.
The first time two people kiss, right?
Right.
It played like the first time maybe even two men who are straight experiment and you know what I mean? Like, it played very intimate and hesitant and kind of like, who should we, you know? So I was like, what the fuck is happening? But then when he just like broke down and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to think about this relationship.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's hard to tell with Michael because we know he's bisexual.
Right.
And like, was he thinking about it? Was the other guy thinking about it? And then they changed their minds, you know, and like the fact that then, I mean, I don't think that whether he did it or not, I don't think we can deny that Michael uses people to, you know, soothe himself and get his emotional needs met. So I definitely felt, you know, that in that moment.
Yeah. Okay, so then it jumps ahead to November 2007. So we're jumping ahead a year, right? Because all of this was like fall 2006. Okay, so it jumps ahead a year. And this is what happened in my notes. In a shocking turn of events, Todd is in recovery.
Right.
I was like, let me find out Clay is a mess again.
Right. Okay, yeah. They changed positions.
Right? But yeah, Todd's in, it looks like he's in an AA meeting, and Martha's in therapy, and she comes out to her therapist. And they did play this, like, we weren't supposed to, like, when she first said it, Like, I was like, oh, she's in therapy. But then she was like, and I've wanted to tell you. I was like, oh, who is she speaking to? Like, I couldn't figure out who she was talking to. I think they wanted you to think that she was telling Michael. Right. But as it turns out, she was basically, I guess, prepping with her therapist, right?
Right.
Like, what she would say.
Like she was rehearsing,
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when her therapist is like, I think he would like to hear this from you. I was like, have y'all really discussed Michael? Because, I mean, it's nice for you to practice this conversation if she really wants to have it with Michael, but I don't know that he really wants to hear this from Martha because, you know.
And also, like, if you've been in therapy and Michael hasn't been a topic, what even are you doing? Like, what even are you paying for? This woman should know Michael by now.
Yes, and the fact that you insert into you telling him, you know, there was never any room for anything else but your feelings, the conversation stops there, people. Right. Like, in case you haven't ever talked to a crazy family member, it's not going to whatever news you're going to share.
Right, no.
Right.
That's the end of it right there. Sophie meets with the medical examiner, who's kind of with it. She's with the owl theory.
Yeah, she was willing to consider it at least. Mm-hmm.
She was like, you know, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need the body. And I was like, oh, well, good fucking luck with that.
Right. Yep. Now, that's not going to happen.
And then, poor Michael, he heard that fucking, cleaning cart come in, and he was like, oh, hey, and then it wasn't Ray.
Right.
That was terrible.
Hey, cart guy.
And, you know, like, I was like, that's really fucked up. Like, he got transferred, he didn't even say goodbye, but I mean, they're prisoners. They're in prison.
Right.
They don't...
Right. They don't get a say.
Sure they don't give a fuck. I'm sure they're not, like, doing, like, you want to go say goodbye to your friends? Like, I mean, you know, you're in prison. I guess they're not supposed to be, like, doing favors for you and things like that. But
can I say goodbye to Staircase first? Come on.
So that's fucked up. Poor Ray is transferred. Poor Michael's on his own now. So then Sophie calls Caitlin. How do you even do this?
Oh, I know.
Oh, that was excruciating.
I don't know how you do this. I don't know how I was thinking, the reason I paused is I was like, do you hire an attorney to do it? But then no, because ain't nobody saying yes to an attorney. Like, you got to go for the personal touch, right? Like, you got to call her on your own and tell her why you believe this, who you are, what this, you know. But the balls it takes, she must have really thought this man was innocent.
Oh my God. I'm sure that she talked herself into it and thinking, like, this is the only chance we have, and I have to do it.
For him.
I couldn't.
I couldn't. I just wouldn't. I fast forward the snooping scenes. What do you think I could do this? I can't do this. There's no way. I'd be like, so I just wanted to ask if it would be okay with you. We could dig up your mom's corpse. No. To prove that the man you believe killed your mom didn't do it. Like, come the fuck on.
Right.
But
it's
she was
just a light desecration.
Jesus Christ. So she's like, I have a theory. And then it fades to the thing, and I was like, we get to see the owl attack. But then when she walked in the house, and I was like, why do I want to see this? Why do I want to see this? So the theory is, according to Larry. Now, correct me. Why did he have a picture of the front of the house the day before she died?
Good question.
Right? Because he pulled something up, and it was like those reindeer weren't the ones that he ended up buying. Mm-hmm. Weren't outside the day before she died or the day she died. So they had to have been out there, put out that night.
Right.
And I could not catch. I might have to like go back and watch that scene.
Yeah, I don't remember what. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But he had like photographic evidence that those things, those decorations, were not out there prior to the night she died.
Maybe he was owl watching.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he was taking pictures of the owl nest or something.
Maybe. So this is so, and this is where I think, Ellen, to your point earlier about it feeling kind of voyeuristic, like, I just felt like, again, every time they do this, I am very much aware of the fact that a woman really died on those stairs. Like, something happened to her and she died. And so when they start this scene here, when she like goes to get the decoration and she like walks it outside, and it's something about it. It's so mundane. It's so like, it's something we all would have done, like,
right.
And so watching this, but to know that it's just pure speculation,
right?
It just, that's the part that just kind of feels a little gross, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, come on. Like, I don't know what really happened to that woman, but I don't know. But I will say the suspense leading up to this, because she goes in and the shot is just like a kind of wide shot of the foyer. And so we see her walking from left out of frame to right, like as she comes back into frame with the thing, and she walks out the front door, and then we get a shot from like almost like across the street of the house, right, of her walking out to the tree and setting it there, and we watch her walk back in. This was so excruciating. Like, they made us watch this whole like, they could have started the scene with her putting the second one out there if they wanted to. Nope. Right. They were gonna make you wait for it. And then the attack came, and Sarah?
That owl scared the shit out of me. I was braced for it, And yet still, when the owl came and hit her head, I like flipped everything in front of me. I was like, ah! I was like laughing nervously for an hour afterwards.
Well, I will say that, like, the way they did it, I think I was anticipating it being more campy than it was. Like,
yeah, this was serious.
The owl, the owl in the depiction on this, the owl caused the lacerations, and then she went in. Like, the way, like, without seeing it told in that way, like, anytime I heard of the owl theory, I just outright thought it was ridiculous. I just pictured, like, the owl in the house and, like, in her hair, and just more cartoonish almost to give it credence. So on one hand, like, I understand that it's just as, the way they depicted it is just as plausible as a blow poke,
right?
But I just think that I don't think we talked about how when she was looking at the slides, like and just being really like, oh, they found feathers, and she was so like there was like microscopic, like to the point where the person said that they might not even be feathers, right? Yeah, was her Radish, the lady? Yeah. And like if an owl attacked to that extent, like, you would think there would be larger, or it just would be. So I kind of get it from Sophie's point of view. Like, she desperately probably wanted to believe that this was it,
right?
So kind of ran with it, but I don't know. It's just hard because Michael and her and the film crew, like, that's what you had the most access to. So these are the characters you know the most about. The kids were in the documentary, so you know a lot about them. But like, it just feels kind of weird watching it because, like, the least about Kathleen, and she's the one who died. Right. It just feels a little weird.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kind of veered off on that, but
no, that's fine.
Just stuff that popped in my head.
Yeah, as somebody who goes out into my garden at midnight, I raise butterflies, and So during the summer, if I have like a bunch of caterpillars at one time,
Mm-hmm.
I raise they're monarchs. So I have like milkweed, and I have all these milkweed in pots out in the garden, and then as they run through them, I bring them out. So if they hit like a growth spurt,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even though I've fed them earlier in the day, by midnight they've gone crazy and eaten
Mm-hmm.
everything in the cage. So then I have to go out and bring them in. There could be like 50 in a cage at one time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out there at midnight, a good like dozen times during the summer, and we have owls.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I just thought this was so terrifying.
Yes, it's very terrifying. Fucking terrifying. Are you kidding me? First of all, birds are fucking terrifying. I don't care what
They
nobody
are
says.
scary. Adam actually, the first time Adam came down to visit us, not us, me,
Mm-hmm.
when we started dating, we were taking a walk down my neighborhood at the time, and a large owl swooped down over his head and buzzed him.
Oh my God. It's just picture Adam. What the fuck?
Like, I was also expecting something super cheesy in this scene,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that they did it in the most realistic fashion
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
And
That
Tony
was like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
and Toni Collette's acting, like when she
Yes.
got in the house, it was terrifying. Like she played it so like, what the hell just happened?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
she
Yes.
was
Like,
just
at
so,
one point, she
like,
was like, fuck.
terrified.
Yeah.
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 And
Because what we're, I think she did a great job portraying, like, what we're supposed to believe is happening is, like, she's bleeding out from her head. Like, these are,
yeah.
pretty deep lacerations, and it's disorienting to be bleeding like that. And then for her to be, I guess, it seemed like she stumbled. What was interesting to me was when she got to the opening of the doorway at the bottom of the stairs, because she had been calling for Michael. That she wasn't trying to, if you believe that this happened, she didn't try to go to where she last knew that he was.
Right.
So it's like, are we to believe here? It kind of played like she was just kind of disoriented and going up the stairs, because she's still calling for him, but she's like now taking a few steps up the stairs. So it kind of felt like, the way it played to me is that it's not about going upstairs to find Michael. She's just kind of out of it at this point, which is why I think we're to believe she fell back, because she just kind of was like woozy.
Yeah.
And then I appreciate that they didn't take it to the end like they did the first two times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. At a certain point, it goes the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the owl scene. And you guys perfectly summed up everything. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was going to be, I said, I want to see Toni Collette tussling with an owl. I was being an asshole.
I think it's like the very beginning of it, just because I was bracing for it. Like, I was like, oh, I think I just anticipated more like campiness, but I don't know like how other people received it. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about it and kind of not like in a more serious way. Like I hope that like other people watching it didn't see it as played for like, oh yeah, the owl theory.
Right,
Woo!
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure. I'm sure some did.
Yeah, I know. And I understand that.
But I think
I just feel a little icky about that part in particular for some reason.
I understand it. Like I said, I feel, weird being like, oh, I'm going to, I was tweeting earlier, hanging out with my girls tonight, talking about the staircase, it's just like, that thing about a woman that died, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and post it in a group so the listeners can see it too, but my notes for this scene before we move on, says, we're going to see the owl attack, 2 exclamation points. And then I was like, then I started, the scene actually was going through, and then I wrote, I'm sad I wanted to see this.
Right. Yeah.
It was like, oh, Nina.
I want to know how they filmed that. Because it looked like a real owl.
It really did. Like they really, I want to look up who directed this. Like that was such a smart choice to do it this way. Like the night lighting, if you will, the just like the perfect distance away from the attack. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it just felt like when we're just on the internet and it's like, look at this video of this woman getting attacked by an owl. Like, you know, it just felt like some weird shit that would happen to someone. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of, thinking about it a little more, like I think they did a good job portraying it as, for those who like believe the owl or want to believe, they did it as in a plausible way.
Right.
But at the same time, for those who doubt the owl theory, they gave enough of that too. Like, I think the guy, when they were watching the slides, he was like, they have duvets, they can get a feather from anywhere, and like the woman, she said that everything was so microscopic she didn't even know that there were feathers. Right. So I think they did a good job in that sense.
I agree.
Yeah. You're right.
And that's the guy, by the way, who ends up getting in trouble.
Yes.
Who was standing there. Yeah. Who's like later working at CVS. So then Caitlin tells Sophie, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, then I was just laughing.
Oh. Caitlin tells Sophie to go fuck herself after that story. Like, lest we forget, as we were watching it, Caitlin was listening to it, and she was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Michael Peterson killed my mother, and I sleep just fine every night, knowing he's gonna fucking die in prison. Fuck you, lady. Don't call me again. That was some good acting. She was like,
that was good.
Crazy. Can you imagine? Woo.
Yeah.
The only thing is, my problem is, I would have kept going. I'd been cussing Sophie out for like an hour.
Right.
She'd had to hang up on me.
You'd still go even after she hung up.
I'm like, you lost your fucking mind, you crazy French bitch. What the fuck are you talking about? Man, I'd have read her for fuck. I'd still been cussing her ass out. Anyway. So then it's Thanksgiving 2007, so very different. Well, not really that different from the last Thanksgiving. It's still miserable. It's a miserable prison visit, right?
Right.
And who's there this time? Oh, Martha's there. And then now she's like, she has the lip piercing now, and who else is there? I don't think Margaret's husband's there this time.
I don't remember him in this scene either.
Yeah, I didn't put the last time I put who was in it. Here I just have miserable prison visit, but ... and then that brings us to the end of the episode. We're back to 2017, and David is explaining to Michael the Alfred plea that he's about to make, and it's being filmed by Jean and them. This is making its way to this is all the stuff that was like the additional stuff, right? Like those additional 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so there was like an original 8 episodes, the first documentary. Like, but if you pull it up, and I don't know, is it still on Netflix, or did HBO say no? Like, did HBO now. I don't it was on Netflix for the longest time, but if you I think it is, because I feel like, didn't Netflix produce those last 3 episodes?
I think so.
I think they might have paid for those episodes.
Yeah, because they were recent.
Yeah, it's still on. Plus, I mean, Netflix is probably getting viewership over,
of course,
the other, the HBO one. People are probably watching both
for the first time, or even revisiting it.
Yeah.
So he's filming it, and so the plea works as such. It allows him to plead guilty while maintaining his innocence, but also admitting that the state has enough evidence to obtain a guilty verdict should it go to trial again. And when David starts reading the statement that Michael is going to have to read in the courtroom, he begins with, I am innocent, right? Yeah. And as it's going through, when he gets to the end, and he's, I just put the bare parts, right? Like, this is what the plea is. But there's some other stuff in there. when he gets to the very end, he says, so, pursuant to all the shit I just said, do you plead guilty? Pursuant to the Alford plea as it has been described or whatever it is, do you plead guilty? And I remember thinking, oh yeah, in the documentary, there was back and forth about this. They were negotiating with the DA because it's a new DA, I think, at this point. Like the guy from earlier, the guy who was sitting with Freda.
Yeah.
Like I forget his name. I don't think it's him now, but I remember they were negotiating this, and I remember Michael was being really, really, really defiant. Like he was like, I don't want to say I'm guilty if I'm not. Like I don't want to have those words existing out in the world that anybody could ever say that I said I killed Kathleen. Like I just can't do it. So I remember him being really insistent on the language, like careful with the language. So when in this scene, when the lawyer says, so pursuant to the Alford plea as it has been, because I felt like, oh yeah, so they're skipping over all of the negotiating and just getting right to the plea, right? Mm-hmm. I expected him to say yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's what he wanted. He specifically didn't want to say, I plead guilty. He wanted to be able to say, I plead guilty to an Alford plea. You know what I mean? Like, he was really, which, I don't know if that's for show. If you're guilty, then of course you kind of maybe push that, right? Because you don't want to seem too eager to say you did it.
Right.
But at the same time,
legally they say you're guilty, but you can state that you're innocent type of thing.
Yes, it allows you to plead guilty to the charge, to the crime, while maintaining your innocence.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like saying this trial would probably put me in jail, so I'm going to just
and
do
he
this
has
instead.
to right. And you're also admitting that should they go, like the DA is like the DA, and that really does this all like kind of stinks of like politics, right? Because it feels like the DA wants it known. I could have got your ass.
Right.
If we went to trial, I had enough to put your ass away again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, he's released. Like if he pleads this, he gets released immediately. Well, no, he was already out.
But right, because he was awaiting the second trial.
Right. It would be exactly that they're not going to trial. That he's going to do this instead, and that all the time that he spent in prison is time served on this guilty plea. Like he doesn't have to serve additional time. Mm-hmm. And he says no. And I was like, y'all really trying to get 8 episodes out of this?
Right.
But
ultimately, did he really say no the first time? Yeah.
I really thought that this, like I said, I remember that it wasn't easy. But I thought by the time he got to the point where he's coming to the courthouse to do it, they had hashed through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if he said no.
At first, he would. Well, I mean, on the HBO version, he was like, "A lie doesn't set you free." I was like,
right.
Oh, shut up.
Yes,
but,
right.
That's so Michael.
Mm-hmm. But I think I can't remember where I read this. He was just saying like, at the time he was like 73 years old and he didn't want to go back to prison. So at the time, like when he finally did the Alford plea, it was just like he was just saying it was the best thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I just be like, look, I want to get the fuck out of prison. I'm gonna say whatever I have to say. Y'all let me go home and stay home and leave me alone. Fine. You want me to say I killed her? I killed her. Just
and like another for him to like fight that plea, and it seemed like it took a while. Like that just like is another example of what like a narcissist is. Like most people do not have the opportunity to use an Alford plea.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's pretty rare. I mean, there's some high profile ones like the West Memphis 3 and
right.
I'm trying to think of some other ones, but it's not like super common.
Right.
but it wasn't for him.
Well, like you said, there's
shut
that.
up.
Yes, you nailed it perfectly. I think they've shown that he was someone he just expected
Mm-hmm.
a certain treatment. He expected things to go his way.
Yeah.
Right.
Why shouldn't he? Like when he said, no, there's no more appeals. It's like, no, there's got to be something.
Right.
Right.
Dude, I'm the attorney. I'm telling you, this is how it works. So.
Right.
So how many episodes is this exactly? I don't remember.
I think that was the 6th one, and there are 2 more.
2 more, okay. Before we go, I know Sarah started it. But wait. Is there anything else you want to say about this episode before we move on?
No.
You guys sure? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was done as well as it could have been, I don't know that I believe it, but that said, they handled it well. I thought.
Yeah, I don't believe, by the way, I don't believe the owl thing.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like if that were the case, I just feel like there would have been more feathers or bigger feathers.
I agree.
Yeah, for those things to be so microscopic and to be the feathers, like why? Why not more feathers?
Right.
Why not those and bigger feathers?
Yeah, there would
why
be
just
a tail
that
feather or something, like that. Especially if it got all tangled up in her hair.
Yeah, you would expect the bigger feathers before you would,
Right. I did find a Variety interview where, while they were talking about how they filmed that, and they said that they did talk about using like an animal, a real owl with an animal handler, and then erasing the animal handler. But ultimately, they used like CGI and then filmed like the owl and then put it in there. And so they kind of studied how owl behavior is, where like maybe on the first pass they kind of tumble over whatever they're going for and then they come back for it. And that like if it was like a young male owl who is being territorial, that at some point it would realize, oh, I thought this was a thing that I could take, and clearly I can't. They don't have like good perception of size. So that then, but at that point he was like tangled in her hair, and that was kind of what they were trying to
portray. Yeah. And I should say, I can't believe we talked about this whole thing, and I did not say once that the name of the episode is Red in Tooth and Claw. How could I not? Yeah, that was the name of the episode. So I feel like there was one. Because, again, true crime, I probably talk about this every week on this podcast. But I know that I bring it up for good reason this week because I know Sarah has started watching it, Candy.
Yes.
Oh, I still haven't.
How many episodes have you watched?
I think I got into the 4th episode and then
so you're
stopped.
almost done.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It is so good.
I told you!
I really haven't seen a lot of stuff that Jessica Biel has done, but I mean,
she's
I've
good,
always kind
right?
of thought that she was like kind of affectatious back in the day when she was on, Seventh Heaven or whatever it was. But like, oh my God, you don't even think of her not being this woman.
And see, I knew she had it in her from The Sinner.
Yes.
That show was on TNT, the first season of that. This was like what you're saying now. That's how I was when I watched that. I was like, Jessica Biel can act like this? Okay. Like,
she was great.
She's so good in this. Yeah, it's good. And I really, really, Melanie Linsky, is that her name?
Mm-hmm. From Yellow Jackets.
Yes, I love her. She's so good in this. I don't want to say too much yet because I know Ellen hasn't had a chance to watch it yet.
I just put it up on Hulu. I have like an hour's worth of homework to do, but maybe I will watch for a couple before I go to bed.
Okay, but treat yourself. Yeah, get your homework done and treat yourself to an episode.
All right, this just popped in my head, and I think it's probably why I was so like feeling the way I was feeling about the owl reenactment because I'm weird. There was a movie, oh god, it must have been back in like the late 90s-ish or mid 90s with Debra Winger and who's the guy? Billy Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet and something about Paris. It's something Paris is in the title.
We'll always have Paris.
Something, yeah. And there's a scene in that where Debra Winger gets a fly strip stuck in her hair and then like a pigeon stuck to the fly strip, and it's played very comedically, and like I couldn't remember like why I had this image of this like funny scene of like someone with the bird in their hair, head back and forth, and having to drive to the doctor with all that. And then as we were talking, for whatever reason, that just like jumped in my head, and I was like, maybe I was just like assuming it was going to be like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it wasn't.
So when you said that, like, I haven't, like, Debra Winger's not, she's someone I haven't, like, thought about, like, in a minute. And, like, honestly, for me, you said Debra Winger, and I was like, Officer and a Gentleman, because like, that's exactly where my brain goes with her. I don't even think I've ever seen Terms of Endearment. I think maybe I saw it once.
That movie, yeah.
Like, a lot, like, okay, because that movie came out in 83, and I was 9. So, yeah, I don't think I've seen it, maybe, but, I was looking, so apparently, okay, so it's like, why does she stop acting? In 1996, she married her current husband, Arliss Howard, which I completely forgot that she was married to him. So, yeah, she decided to retire, to take care of her family. But anyway, I forgot she was married to Timothy Hutton as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I totally forgot. I want to look up what that movie was called.
From 86 to 90.
Was it Remember Paris?
That's what I think,
Forget Paris.
Oh, yeah.
With Billy Crystal. Because she was,
I'm sure I've seen it.
She lived in Paris, and he was an American, and they met on vacation or something, and she ends up coming back to the States, and she gets a pigeon stuck to her head on a fly strip. And, like, that's all I remember. So I was just so stuck in my head of this, like, cartoonish depiction of that I was,
I've seen this movie.
Carrying it over to, unfairly, I should add, carrying it over to the staircase.
Yeah, one thing I remember about that movie coming out is that at the same time, Meg Ryan had a movie called French Kiss. So it was like the dueling French movie.
Was that Kevin Kline?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
That's funny.
It's so good, and the weird thing about that movie is it isn't streaming anywhere.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. And they can't, like, nobody can figure out who it actually belongs to. Like, I guess the rights, got jumbled up in, like, in movie production house takeovers and things like that. And so they still don't have it
available anywhere.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's crazy.
Interesting.
Which is a shame because it's so good.
Kevin Kline's still married to my wife, right? Phoebe Cates? Yeah. Oh my God. Ellen, you would appreciate this. I'm going to let you guys go. This is the last little story I'm going to tell. So, what?
Stranger Things?
No. Oh, I haven't started.
There's a Phoebe Cates reference in that.
Oh, is it? Okay.
In the first episode.
Oh, the season 4. Yeah, I haven't started. Oh, the reason I haven't started yet is because we are covering it, but we're not going to cover it till next week. So I don't want to watch it and then forget things. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to wait till next weekend to watch. But we were covering something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was me and Kaylee and Donnie, but maybe it was just me and Kaylee. But I was telling her about Lace.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, it was Yellow Jackets. On the Yellow Jackets podcast, because what I wanted to happen, first of all, Sarah, did you watch Yellow Jackets?
No.
Okay, then I will not spoil it. I wanted there to be, like, there's like a baby, and like, I was like, I want that baby to like come back 20 years later and be like, which one of you bitches is my mother? Because the baby was raised on this deserted island where the plane crashed, and in reality, Sarah, the plane didn't crash on an island. It crashed in like the mountains of Canada, but it's so
Okay.
lost. You know what I mean? Like the whole
Right.
premise of law, like with the flashbacks and stuff. Sarah, all season I kept saying when they're on the island. So then finally I was just like, the island of Canada. Fuck it, that's an island. But so my thing was, I really wanted that, and so I told this whole story about Lace and Phoebe Cates, and to the point where I actually pulled up the clip on YouTube and played it on the podcast. She was like, "Which one of you bitches is my mother?" That was like fucking a TV event, okay?
That was like 80s, like that was like in that Dynasty,
Yes,
like
yes.
walking down the staircase
Yes.
era. Yeah.
Yes, nighttime soap
Staircase.
life was that high during that
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was such a big deal. And I think one of the women was like Brooke Adams, right? And a French
so.
woman. What? I remember this shit. I'm old.
Lace. No, I'm older than you. Well, Lace. Okay, so Phoebe Cates and the guy who played Damone, they're both in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right? At the school I work at, Phoebe Cates' nephew graduated from there.
Wow.
Joe Keery, who plays Steve on Stranger Things, graduated from there.
Oh, that's
and
right.
then the guy who plays Damone, he's like great nephew. Two of them are students at the school. I think one graduated. Yeah, so I was like, ooh, a little Hollywood connection on my little Newburyport.
Yeah, Brooke Adams was one of the women, and then there was one of the other women was just like a French actress. I can't remember her name. But anyway,
What's wrong?
I used to love that fucking show. It was like such a treat to like stay up and watch stuff like that with my mom.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it's also such a treat. Look at me and my little corny segue to podcast on the weekend with my girls. This was a lot of fun.
Saturday night. Ooh.
And I'm not done. I got to go now talk nerdy Star Wars shit with John and Donnie. We're going to be talking about Obi-Wan, which was really good. I can't wait to talk about that.
It was.
Say hi to the boys.
I will. So anyway, though, but thank you guys for listening. Me, Sarah, and Ellen will be back next week to talk about episode 7. In the meantime, hopefully in between studying, Ellen will have an opportunity to watch a few episodes of Candy and
Sneak them in.
Yeah, it's like no pressure, but like, man, if you could finish Candy by the time we are done with this, so we could talk about it on the finale podcast.
I can do it. All right, I'll make it. It'll be my homework. It'll be extra homework.
It'll just be like a treat to yourself. Like finish your homework and watch like 30 minutes. Like I think you'll like it. And I'm pretty sure I have a thread up in our group for the show because that's what Sarah's been commenting on. So I'll tag you in it when you start watching it. So
all right.
So anyway, thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.